Hi everybody. So this is probably as weird for you as it is for me, but I figured this is probably the easiest way to explain how your project is going to work today. So we all remember this worksheet that I gave to you on Monday, and this is kind of the inspiration for our project. So in front of you, you should have this worksheet explaining the City of Ingalls project, and I'm just going to go over a few things. So you are going to design a map of a city, town, neighborhood, or park. Your design must include roads or paths and at least 8 different landmarks. So please circle that, highlight it, star it 10 times. You have to have 8 different landmarks. And those can be stores, restaurants, houses, buildings, anything else that you can think of. So I have an example map on the bottom. In fact, I've got a bigger one here for you to look at. So this is basically what your map is going to be. A couple of roads, some different buildings. In this case, in my example, I just used the logos for those businesses or places. You can decide how you want to decorate that, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So on top of coming up with this map, you are going to need questions about your map. And I'll help you out with the questions a little bit more tomorrow, but 3 of your questions need to use the terms vertical, supplementary, and adjacent. Each one of those terms needs 1 question. Then the other 3 questions should be something about angle measures. So I gave you some examples in there. If the angle with the Hungry Howie's measures 67 degrees, what would be the Noodles and Company angle measurement be? Since those are supplementary angles, we could calculate that, that angle measure. So the questions basically are modeled off of the ones you see here. So you would need 3 questions similar to these, and then 3 questions similar to those. Today, what I want you to really focus on is coming up with a rough draft for your final project. Now, around the room, there should be some final projects. I'll grab a couple right now. And I'm back. So around the room, you should see some of these. These are examples that we did last year. This is what your final project will look like. But today, first, we just got to get our rough drafts done. So when you're making your rough draft, I just want a basic outline of what your roads are going to look like. So here's my lined paper, or actually, you know what? You guys can do it on the back side of this one. I'm going to do it on lined paper, but you guys do it on the back side. Literally, I'm going to take my paper, and you should have maybe 4 roads. It doesn't need to be a lot. I'm just going to take my paper and real quick, I know you can't see this, I just did some basic lines. On my final product, I can make them look more like roads. I can make the design look a little bit better. But for a rough draft, I just want it to look something like this. And I believe I've left some examples of student rough drafts from last year that you can look at for inspiration. Now, I believe I read in the directions earlier that you are going to need 8 landmarks. And so all I want you to do right now is number where those landmarks are going to go. So for example, I might do something like that on my rough draft. So I just label them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then I want you to start coming up with a rough draft of your questions. So for example, 3 of the questions have to use the term vertical, supplementary, and adjacent. So I might do something like this. Angles 4 and 5 are supplementary. I don't know what my question is going to be yet, but I can write down for question number 1, I'm going to discuss something about angle 4 and angle 5 being supplementary. Okay, so notice there's no question there. I just wrote down angle 4 and angle 5 are supplementary. And then, let's see, I do have some vertical angles. So down here, 7 and 8 are vertical. So I'm going to, for question number 2, I don't know what my question is, but I do know that I'm going to talk about those particular angles and that they are vertical. And what else? I need an adjacent. So for example, angles 1 and 2 are adjacent. So I have the basis for my first 3 questions written down. When I decide what buildings are going to go there, then I can finalize that. For the other 3 questions, I would do the same thing. If you can throw some complimentary in there, I'm not requiring that. But for my next 3 questions, I might say something like angle 1 and 3 are vertical. And when I decide what buildings those are, I already know they're vertical, so that will help me determine their angle measurements. So this is what I would like you to have done today. You can give it to other people to kind of check, make sure that you have them labeled correctly, that the angles you say are adjacent are really adjacent. If they're vertical, they're really vertical. And you can start planning out your final copy if you get this done. Otherwise, you can work on your pink review. I know I assigned problems 1 through 6 due tomorrow. You can always work ahead and get kind of some of those problems done. So hopefully I covered everything. We'll talk a little bit more on Thursday probably about this rubric that I'm going to give you for your final copy. But as far as your rough draft, that'll be enough. You can also, if you want to start planning, like this is going to be 7-Eleven, this is going to be, I don't know, airtime, stuff like that. If you want to start planning out the buildings, feel free. But rough draft is due tomorrow. Have a great day. I will see you guys on Thursday.